Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you today, and thank you for being so on time. As you know, please mute your microphone. But if you've got any questions, use the Zoom chat and make comments. We've got Fred here today, which is great. Thanks for being here, Fred. It's lovely to see you. And also, Fred is the master of a lot of knowledge. So if you have any questions, please do ask, and Fred will be able to answer them in the Zoom chat. Make some comments, have discussion as well. And if you drop off the call at all, just rejoin with the same link. If you do have any questions at all, we're a small group. It's quite interactive, so please do just ask. I will try to come to them. Fred will come to them. So please do ask. Don't get lost along the way. So what are we actually doing today? So today's a really exciting session because we're looking at what finance is right for me today. Now, this is a bonus workshop. So you would have noticed that we added this workshop in, and we've sort of made this workshop in an exciting time to try to understand exactly how you can determine what sort of finance you should be focusing on for your nonprofit and for your social business. So today we're going to be looking at what financial support is actually available to you. What can you get? What's out there? But we're going to be completing something called the Financial Readiness Survey. And this is something we have made, which is a tool that's specifically for Ideas into Action participants, in order for you to understand whether you should focus in next steps around grants or around crowdfunding support. So it's a really cool tool. It will help you and your organization determine exactly what sort of finance you should be focusing on at the end of the program. And it's all data driven. So you don't need to make any decisions, and we don't need to make any decisions for you. It's all data driven, which is really exciting. So we're excited to show that to you today, and we'll be using that and spending a lot of time understanding that tool and then understanding the next steps for you and your organization at this moment. So we've got a really busy agenda. We'll be looking at why choosing the right form of finance matters, and then we're going to go in and we're going to complete the financial readiness survey. We're then going to have a 20-minute work break where you can either take a break or you can do some work, where we've got some sort of to-dos, some suggested to-dos, but we're taking 20 minutes in that work break. And then we're going to go and look at this, whether you've been, after completing the financial readiness survey, the data will say whether you should focus on crowdfunding at the moment or on grants. And then we're going to go and have a discussion with Fred or with myself around either crowdfunding or grants to give you a space to ask more questions in a very informal setting, but also for us to sort of explain what you might need to do in that group a little bit more to be able to focus on crowdfunding or on grants. We're then going to have a little next steps Q&A for the grants process in Ideas into Action, which is really a chance for you to ask any questions around that. Then we've got a next step for crowdfunders and how that process works in Ideas into Action, and a Q&A as well for a final preview of what's coming up, because we've got a really busy end to the program. Not end to the program, we've still got a long time to go, but we've got a busy February, and it's really exciting with some in-person workshops as well. So we'll do a little preview at the end. So we should all be wrapped up by 12 o'clock today. So I appreciate everybody coming on time. I won't be talking for long today. It's going to be a lot of Q&A and questions. It's going to be a very interactive session. So if you have questions, start writing them down, start asking them, start thinking about them as well, because we will be asking you to ask us questions as well. First of all, let's look at the funding options that are out there for you and your organization at this stage. I think it's important to say that we're all at different stages of the journey, okay? But everybody can kind of look at similar forms of finance, but you want to start to narrow your focus as to where you're going to be most successful with fundraising at this stage of your journey. So first of all, everyone's going to be bootstrapping. And what this means is kind of a very creative way in trying to access all the finance you can and being able to understand all the financial options that are out there for you, but without having to rely on one. Everyone's going to do that. I think that's something that non-profit organizations do really, really well to be able to deliver their social impact. Another form of finance that's out there for you is a loan. Now, a loan is an amount of money that you borrow and you pay back. And again, this is an option which is available for some of you, especially with a product or you have a service and you want to sort of grow it, but you have to pay this loan back. So it's not always the most popular option for non-profits or social enterprises or social projects that perhaps don't have a massive revenue stream to pay that back. Crowdfunding. And these next sort of three, but especially the next two, are going to be a big focus with Ideas into Action. So we'll be looking at crowdfunding. This is where you build a page online for your organization or for your project, and you set the amounts that you want to raise and for what. And then you start raising that money that you need from individuals, from networks, from organizations. And we've got grants, of course. There's another big focus area of the Ideas into Action program. And grant fundraising, you'll be looking at specific organizations, specific trusts, specific individuals who might fund your organization or part of your organization or a project, but you will have to apply for this. You're not guaranteed that funding. And of course, there's donation. This is different to crowdfunding because it might be a one-off donation to your organization or to a project. It might be through someone you've met. You might not have a crowdfunder live. Now, all of these options of finance are available to you. I'm not going to talk through them in extensive detail today. Fred can post in the chat exactly where you can watch more about loan finance, more about crowdfunding, grants, and other forms of finance, and read more. However, we are today going to be looking a lot around crowdfunding and grants in quite an informal setting where you can ask us questions. And that's going to be a big focus of today, is actually looking at grants and crowdfunding and the advantages and disadvantages of these forms of finance. But I do want to show you all of them and sort of, first of all, just show you the pros and cons, the advantages and disadvantages of each form of these finances when you're thinking about things going forward. Now, we'll all be bootstrapping. This really means being creative, right? You think about resources, make the most of the resources, okay, that you have available to you. Perhaps you don't have the means to fund everything you want to do right now. That's fine. So think about how you can spread your resources, how you can be really resourceful in doing what you want to do. Finance options are available to you, but you shouldn't just think you're going to be able to get all of it in one go, okay? You want to think about being creative and thinking about what you can work with right now to get what you need to get. Relying on your partners, relying on volunteers as well as a form of capital to be able to cut costs wherever you can in a way that it doesn't impact your social impacts, but in a way where you can save money so you can actually deliver the social impact you want to do. And please do realize that the likelihood of having all the money straight away that you want is not going to be realistic. Fundraising is a continuous journey for nonprofits. It's something you will do as long as you're delivering social impact. That's the reality of it. We'll keep going, right? At times you might have less fundraising commitments than at other times, but you will always be sort of fundraising and looking for different types of finance. So it's really important to spend time in your startup budget, in your project budget, working out your project costs, working out your organizational costs, and working out your cost per impact, okay? There is a reason why we have this, there's a reason why we worked in it, and it's to think about actually how much money do you need, how much money are you spending as an organization in starting and in your project. So let's look a little bit at some advantages and disadvantages of the forms of finance. So if we start with loans, okay, now loans is a form of debt finance, but you do need to repay that to the lender. A lender's most likely going to be a bank, but it can also be an organization. You'll often use this money to scale or grow your business and your social impacts. And for any loan finance, you need to have a very meticulous and detailed financial plan. Okay, you need to show people how you're going to pay it. The advantages of a loan is that they can be very flexible, much more flexible than grant funding. Sometimes you'll be given money and you can do as you wish with it. It can be used to support a wide range of projects or programs. So you can look at funding your organization or funding one project or doing both. You can sort of purchase assets or expand operations. So you can scale the project, you can scale your organization without necessarily having to deliver on social impact right then and there. It does obviously come with some disadvantages as well. Funds have to be repaid, okay? And if they're not repaid, then you can actually get in quite a lot of not trouble necessarily, but bad credit history. Can be quite difficult to obtain as well. People want to see the finances. You need to have a credit score. It can be difficult to get loan finance, and the interest rates can be quite high. So you might be paying a lot of money back. So you need to have a very, very good, solid sort of revenue stream and financial model where you'd have enough money to pay it back. And banks are really not happy if you don't repay. I put that in there because it seems like an obvious one, but honestly, like it can actually really be quite detrimental to you personally, but also your organization, especially if you're registered by guarantee and you're the director, and it falls on you. So, do also consider that if you're looking at taking out a loan, that you can be able to repay. There is this one exciting fund which is launching at Turn at the moment, called Skylight Ventures. And Skylight Ventures is a microfinance fund to help small scale projects to start their organizations. Okay. It's been set up by one of my colleagues here at Turn called Isabel. She has started Skylight Ventures, and it's going to launch likely open to applications in late April or early May 2023. You can get up to £1,000 in capital to help with early stage operations and startup costs and budgets. It's going to be 0% for up to 2 years. So you won't be paying any interest for up to 2 years. There's a 2-month grace period before repayment. So you can get the money and then you can actually wait 2 months before you start repaying. And repayment plan is based on what you borrow, how long you want to repay it over. So it's a very flexible, friendly loan from an organization that you all know. But Skylight is separate to Turn. It's its own organization. It's its own entity. Isabel's been instrumental and leads on this. It's a super brilliant organization that's really hopefully going to change the accessing of microfinance for early stage social entrepreneurs and also early stage entrepreneurs from refugee backgrounds. So please do get in touch at hello@skylightfund.org. Not right now because it's launching in April or early May. Visit the Skylight Fund to read more. Fred will post that in the chat now. I'm happy to talk about this a little bit more if you have any questions and stuff. It's a great option of finance for early stage to be able to prove what you're doing. However, you do need to pay it back, okay? It's not just a grant, it is a loan. Now, the 2 forms of finance we'll be looking at a lot today are crowdfunding and grant fundraising, okay? And that's going to be really instrumental in Ideas into Action at the end of the program. We'll be focusing on this a lot, but also in the financial readiness survey, which we're going to be working on. So to help you in both understanding and focusing your energies, let's just have a quick look at the advantages and disadvantages of both. So crowdfunding, and we'll be talking much more about this, and we have videos as well. But this is where we're going to be looking at in detail today. But crowdfunding is an option for your organization where you'd run a public campaign to raise money for your organization or for your pilot project or a project. It's a great way to raise initial capital. It's a great way to raise capital in general to deliver projects. So some huge advantages of that is you can raise quickly and, relatively speaking, easily. It allows for a wide range of people to contribute, which means your message spreads very far and wide. It can create a real buzz and excitement around a campaign, so people can get on board, they can follow you on social media, people know who you are as you're growing, and it can be a great way to test demand for a product or a service. So if people are really donating, you can see that people are really getting behind this, but also if you have a product you're selling, you can see how many people are buying it, right? So it can be a really nice way to see that. Some disadvantages of it as well. It can be difficult to achieve a significant level of funding. Now, when you're thinking crowdfunding amounts, you might be thinking 20, 30, 40,000 pounds. That's going to be really hard to achieve. It is quite often a smaller amount between 3,000 to 5,000 pounds, and it can be difficult to attract repeat contributors. which means it might not be suitable for more complex or ambitious projects, because it's hard to do multiple crowdfunders over a short period of time, right? You might launch one, and then it's quite difficult to run another one a month later because you've already had that support for a crowdfunding campaign. Grant fundraising is the other area in Ideas into Action where we'll be spending a lot of time supporting and helping you in unlocking and untapping grant finance. It's a great option. I mean, there's some mad, unbelievable advantages to grant fundraising, which is why pretty much every non-profit in the world probably has a grant at some point in their journey. Funds don't need to be repaid, first of all, right? So you get the money and that's yours. It can be a really stable source of funding a non-profit, right? So you can use this for specific programs and specific projects. It can be used for your organization, not just a project, okay? Crowdfunding might not be enough money to deliver your entire organizational mission, but you might be able to run one project with it. Whereas a grant might be a larger sum of money that really helps your organization get set up, get established, and you can deliver a project at the same time. Disadvantages that come with it can be difficult to obtain, and there's lots of competition out there. And that's the reality with grant fundraising is there are a lot of non-profits doing a lot of good work. However, there's not a lot of money out there. So it can be really, really hard. And that does mean it's hard to get in front of specific funders without an introducer or without an introduction to that funder. This is something, we want to try to do to support you in the journey, but we can't promise that, of course, but it can be hard to get and obtain a grant, and it can be quite time consuming. And applications can be very resource intensive to prepare, so you can spend quite a long time doing them. You can do many and you're not successful at all. It can take a little while to pay out sometimes, so you might get a grant, but then you have to spend the money first and then they'll give the money back to you, or you might get a grant that's paid out over 3 months. It's up to the parameters of the grant giver. And it might come with strict reporting requirements or restricted funding is how it's sometimes called as well. So you can only spend that grant money on certain things. So that's another area. You can't just get a grant and then spend on anything. You have to spend it on what you said you're going to spend on in the application, or what the grant giver agrees for you to spend it on. Donations. So as a non-profit or social mission organization, you do open yourself up for donations, which is another avenue. You might get this from organizations or from individual donors. The advantage is it's often unrestricted funding, which is great. So you're just given some cash. People fund as they really believe in you. Okay, so they might fund again, so you can sort of show them your crowdfunder or something, or talk to them and have that connection. There's small to medium amounts that are paid fast. And you don't need to pay them back. They're a donation. These are great. These are brilliant. Donations are fantastic. However, they can be very small. It might only be £100, it might be £200, it might be £500. Not going to be repeat funding always. It might be a one-off. I really wouldn't rely on them as an organization, and you have to make the connection first. You cannot rely on donations as a form of recurrent funding. Okay, situations change for people, for organizations, for donors. Okay, so you might get them as one-offs. That's brilliant, but don't rely on donations as a form of funding for your organization. So one thing is for sure, and I think something you should all consider at some point in your journey as you're going, is something called blended finance approach. Okay, so you can combine your fundraising. This means as you're sort of bootstrapping, you might be first looking at crowdfunding, you might later look at grants or donations, right, in a few years down the line. Maybe in 5 years, you might need a loan. The thing is blended finance is probably the right option for your organization. Not right now, maybe in a few years. Maybe you use all of these areas over the next couple of years. Don't close the door necessarily to all of them, but it's about focusing at a specific time where it's right for your organization, so you can be more successful in your fundraising journey. Okay, so this is why we've come up with the financial readiness survey. We've spoken about a lot of different organizations, but the reason why we've come up with this survey is it's been designed to determine what finance is the best option for you in your business right now. The answers are all confidential, but it's data driven based on where you are at as an organization at the moment to help you work out whether crowdfunding is your best option, whether grant fundraising is your best option, or whether both of them right now are options for you and your organization. Okay, so it is a data-driven source. It's not done on what you think is best. It's done more on the data. Again, this is a survey which we would recommend using based on the data, but it's not the be all and end all as to your fundraising journey. It's just for right now, and specifically, it's to help you to focus towards the end of Ideas into Action. But today, if the survey tells you one result and you're thinking, oh, I want to be in another room, I want to be doing crowdfunding, today you've got the questions, you've got the space to be able to ask myself, ask Fred, actually, the survey said I shouldn't do crowdfunding, but I really want to do crowdfunding. What do I need to do to start crowdfunding? Right. So the survey will also show you what you need to focus on, what you need to do as an organization to be more successful in a crowdfunding campaign or be more successful in applying for grants so that you can ultimately get to the both section. I just want to show you a few examples. We've helped people in the community and in the Ideas into Action program apply for finance on their journey. So Mariam ran a crowdfunding campaign last year for a pilot project with Coffee with Kids. Fred can post in the link in the chat a link to the Turn crowdfunder. So you can see last year in the Ideas into Action program, we raised over £12,000 for 5 different projects. Okay, and I'll explain what we'll be doing in the journey a little bit later. But this is an area of the program which we want to support with, which we do support with, and it's something to really start thinking about now. Now, Mariam raised £3,050 from 20 supporters in 27 days, which is really, really impressive. She did it by having an amazing social media campaign. She was posting every other day. She launched it during Refugee Week, and she was very clear in what she wanted to do and what she was going to spend the money on, and she created a campaign where people could really get behind it as well. Okay, so crowdfunding is an option. These aren't just sort of fundraising things we're talking about. These are fundraising things we want to help with, but we've also helped people apply for grants. So Fred, do you want to talk a little bit about Usman? I know you worked with him specifically.
Yes, Lucas, thank you. With Usman, it took a while until he was able to start his actual coffee shop, and until he got a grant, he was not able to afford the actual renting of a permanent place. So for years we worked with him having a mobile setup where he could go into different events and run a coffee cart. And people were starting to see that he was really committed. Talk about bootstrapping, this term bootstrapping that Lucas used earlier. Basically, Usman was bootstrapping, for better or worse, with minimal resources, with donated or lent equipment that friendly people had given him, and he was just trying to fight his way through. But eventually, he applied for an unlimited grant, and we supported him in writing this grant, and he eventually got this. I think it was his second attempt on which he got it. On his first attempt, maybe not. So sometimes you have to be persistent with grants as well, because you sometimes apply among many hundreds of people in a single grant application window. And so you have to have a very good application and stand out, and B, you need to manage expectations. And that's what Usman did. Eventually, that gave him enough capital to start the shop, refurbish a little coffee shop in Walthamstow. And now he runs that for a few years already, and uses it to empower people by training them as baristas and by giving access to work opportunities for refugees who have not had previous access to employment in the UK. So again, a good example of somebody who had to first show a bit of traction, first show that he was so committed, didn't get an early grant, but did get a decent sized grant to start the coffee shop once he had persisted and worked on a really good application.
Thanks, Fred. And I know we both worked with Ravi last year, but do you want to talk a little bit about someone who also the crowdfunder and an unlimited grant as well?
Yes, and so not dissimilar to Usman, Ravi is somebody who applied successfully for an unlimited grant, but he also ran a crowdfunding campaign. They weren't running exactly at the same time, or he didn't prepare and submit his grant exactly at the same time as his crowdfunding campaign, so he paced himself. But there's a different advantage to these two forms of finance, right? So the unlimited award is money that once you have applied successfully and you go through an interview with the grant issuing organization Unlimited, you get the money straight away and you don't have other commitments. Whereas with the crowdfunder, Ravi was able to engage more people. As you can see, he had 27 supporters that contributed to the campaign. And these were people who are interested in what he's doing, individuals, small organizations, that would be interested in his social enterprise that supports refugees and asylum seekers in overcoming trauma by creating art. And so instead of just getting the money from this campaign, he actually built a relationship with people who contributed to the crowdfunding campaign. They were promised some return. In other words, not a financial return, but rather for them to receive free classes, art classes where they might meet artistic refugees and asylum seekers and collaborate with them. He also promised some products, so t-shirt prints with the art created by the participants in his program. And so he actually engaged people into his operation instead of just getting the funding. So there's a dual purpose, audience building an audience of supporters, and also getting access to the money. So that was really advantageous for Ravi. Plus, he actually used it as a platform to promote his own story, that of the social enterprise. And so it was also kind of a nice fixed point for him to aim for and start a social media campaign. And I think that started giving him a bit of momentum on his online presence. So you can see a crowdfunding campaign does very different things to a grant. However, that is really two different forms of finance. You don't necessarily want to do everything at the same time because you might get overwhelmed. However, Ravi did use some of the text that he had developed and some of the media he had developed for the grant in writing his crowdfunding page. So you can see there are two different forms of finance with different outcomes, but you can reuse some resources when you prepare one after the other. So you don't always have to start from scratch.
Thanks, Fred. And to help you, as Fred was saying, around it's quite a lot to possibly do both, but also to understand what you should be doing and where you should be focusing. And these are two areas, as both Fred and myself were saying, these are two areas that we help with in the end of the toward the end of the program. We'll be helping with this all the way up to June, right? So these are two areas we want to help with, and this will just help you to sort of survey will help you to kind of focus exactly where it is you should be spending your energies and where you should be asking for support from, say, from myself and from someone called Bertie as well, who I will be introducing later with the crowdfunding. But for now, I think I've spoken quite a lot. I think we should just really get into it. So I'll just quickly demo. I'm not going to go into all the details of it. I will just very quickly demo the financial. Can everyone see my screen still? Can you still see the?
Yes, Lucas, we see your browser now.
Fantastic. So, Fred, could you post in the chat? I believe it is.
I already have, yes.
Amazing. I think it's.
So, guys, this is the link, the last link I shared on the Zoom chat, and you can now open it if you haven't already. It's called Link to the Financial Awareness Survey, and there's a link under it which you can click if you have any problems with that. Please let us know, but you should be able to open it.
And thankfully the link works. So always a little bit of terror when you put in the link you've made. But it does work, which is great. So this is what it looks like. It's really straightforward. It takes up to 7 minutes, okay? But we're going to do this all together in breakout rooms for half an hour. And we're going to do it for half an hour because it gives you the space to talk to Fred, to talk to me, to ask any specific questions that you might have. So don't feel like you need to rush through it really, really quickly. Spend time asking questions and asking us exactly if you've got anything at all that you're not sure about. So it's quite a straightforward around the about you. This is just getting to know you. All of the questions are mandatory, so you will need to fill them out. The data is only kept internally at Turn as well, so it's confidential entirely. You basically go through this and fill it out. Very straightforwardly, you just fill it out with that link and then go through, put your telephone number in as well. There's other sections beyond the about you, where it will start to ask you questions relating to your business. Okay, so what's the name? So I'm gonna go with Turn. Okay, it will say, does it have a social mission? Start thinking, okay, is it product or service? This will help the survey to determine whether what's the focus of your organization. If it's both, that's absolutely fine. Is it having a positive impact on people, on the planet, or is it both? The types of finance. So this is really, we want to know as well, what do you understand about finance at the moment? There's no right or wrong answer here. If there are things you don't understand, we can see that from the survey, and we can also send you resources, of which we have an abundance, to help to learn more about different areas of finance. Okay, so let's say I only know grants, don't know anything else, then the survey would tell me that it could, I don't know anything about crowdfunding, then I could link to crowdfunding resources. I don't know about the money, how much money I need. So this area, financial readiness, is looking how I'd spend the money. So have I done my business plan yet? Have I done my social business plan? Do I actually know what I'll spend the money on or not? Is it for a project or is it for operations? What am I going to spend the money on? Tell the survey what you're going to spend the money on. You can link out to your social business plan tool as well. How would you measure success? So looking at the impact, right? So is that done in terms of the amount of people you've served? Is that the number of products you sold? How do you actually measure success? Which is really important if you're looking at grant fundraising, especially, but also for crowdfunding. How do you actually measure success as an organization? Are you registered yet? How are you registered? Do you want to change it? I know some of you are set up as for-profit companies that want to change. And then this area is looking specifically around understanding crowdfunding and donations. So these questions will help to determine how you answer them, will help to determine whether you should focus on crowdfunding or on grant fundraising at the moment. And be honest, be totally honest. If you don't have anything, that's fine. This is not an exercise in seeing how far you've done or how much you've done so far, rather, in the Ideas into Action program. So, or beyond. Some people have been running your social organizations for a few years. Other people have literally just started. Okay, so just be honest about it, because it will really help you in the long run in determining what you should focus on. So this is it. Grant fundraising is the last section, the number 7, the last section, and then I'm just going through it. These questions will be in a group. You can ask any questions. This is the loan. We'd like to know if you're interested in that microfinance loan I spoke about. If you're not, absolutely fine. If you are, let us know, and then we can be in touch in the future as well. And then, yeah, we'd like to know as well what you'd spend money on. So just to know how actually well thought through your financial planning is, and then it's submit, and then it's done. That's it. That's all it is. Okay. So this will then help, the survey will then generate some answers, which we'll look at in the break, and then help to split into either grant fundraising or crowdfunding, where you can actually ask a few more questions, and we can have a little bit more of a space to start talking about this in more detail. Now, just want to spend a little bit of time talking about some timelines, but I also want to just say as well that you might have been in one room, you might have done funding for something else, you might have been successful with other types of funding. This is this is a financial readiness survey to help you focus a little bit and to help you see that actually your organization is ready for a specific type of funding or for both. And now I want to explain a little bit about the next steps towards the end of the program, and how Ideas into Action and the team here is going to be working with you all to help you achieve grant fundraising or crowdfunding aims, or both, if you're sort of ready for that in your awareness survey. So we're going to first look at the grants timeline. As you know, this program runs until June. However, the intensive period of support is really coming up to the end of March. So this is where you have the support from myself and from SAFE once a week. It's only 2 months now, okay, to develop your brand and your social media, to develop your organizational story and your pitch, but also to register, to become compliant, and to have spark support with anything else that you might want to work on. So this is, we're in February tomorrow, right? It's the 1st of February tomorrow. That's 2 months, 2 months of very, very intensive support. Make the most of it, because that's going to go quickly. And after that, the support is going to be different. And I'm going to explain how that works now. We are, with the grants timeline, we want to get you set up for success as an organization, but also to really develop your organizational story and your pitch to be able to have a grant event on the 30th of March. Now, this hasn't been finalized yet. It's very, very nearly there, but it will probably resemble a small pitching type event where you can present in a small space, a small circle of people. You can present your organization, your business idea, your social project to people that are friends of Turn, but also to potential grant advisors, so that you can meet people and start making connections with grant awarding bodies. So we want to do this because we want to help you with grant writing now, but also in May and June, we will have some grant writing support with myself and SAFE. It's going to be less intensive, and it's going to be the only focus area after April. April is going to be a pretty quiet month due to Easter and also Eid and Ramadan. So April will be a little bit more of a quiet month in terms of support. But we really want to have this grant event so we can set you up for grant support with Turn supporters. Now, that might be help on whether that's just meeting people who might work in bodies, grant awarding bodies, and starting connections. It might be support with writing grants. It might be support with reading over grants. But the grant support and Ideas into Action and the timeline is going to start now, and it's going to run through to June. But I do want to say that in May and in June, the support is going to be a little bit less intensive. It's not going to be as much as it will be up until March. It's going to be a first come, first served with a booking link because of capacity and the way that the program is set up. So we really want to gear you up for this storytelling, pitching, and getting you set up for this grant event on the 30th of March. So if you are interested in grants, at that event, you'll probably, will be looking at presenting your idea, but also meeting potential grant givers, organizations, and supporters that can help you. But please do use the Spark support that is available until March with myself and with SAFE, right? And you can do whatever you like for your social organization up until March. And then in May and June is going to be really focused around grant support. It's going to be focused around one-to-one grant writing or one-to-one looking for grants. We might be sending you grants, or we can also review grants for you before you apply for them. So that support is going to be less intense for sort of all over Spark, but it will be there in May and June for grant writing. But it's only probably going to be one day a week. So any questions at all around the sort of support for grant writing leading up to the end of the program?
I've got a question, but it's not around grant writing. Were there support around social media? And the reason I'm asking, because we have a Facebook page, and when we set it up, I realized that, because at that point, we knew very little about social media. So one of our friends set it up, and instead of setting it up as an account, it was set up as a page linked to a private page. Is there any way we could remove that and keep all the history? Because we tried to do some research to see how you transfer a Facebook account, but it doesn't seem to show how you transfer a Facebook page.
Fred?
So, Lucas, yeah. So, Yvonne, we so happen, this is on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have, luckily, a community member who is a graduate and who is also a social entrepreneur in spirit, at least, from the Turn community, who directly works at Facebook. His name is George. I would be happy to ask him whether he'd be interested in having a quick chat with you about this. He's maybe not an expert on all aspects of the Facebook platform, but he might be able to give you a yes or no, or some tips on how to go about it, if there is any chance. So this is something we can do as a follow-up. I will check if he's available. If not, we might have to see if there's an answer to this on the internet that we can find. But if he is available, I'll let you know how to be in touch with him.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
And in question to social media, Yvonne, this is also things that SAFE and I do help with and support with. So if you did want to actually think about setting up an Instagram page or a LinkedIn page, I know you've got Twitter and you've got Facebook, but if you were interested in other types of social media as well, or how it could be used, you could also have a session with Safe and I up until the end of March to actually discuss this.
Right. Thank you.
So yes, Fred.
It's just worth saying that we do have a few cool workshops coming up on this front as well, isn't it, Lucas?
Yeah.
I don't know if you had put that in the official schedule yet, but we have a social media workshop coming up and a marketing workshop coming up, which complement the offering that Lucas has just described. So there you can get your general tips, and then you can go deeper with Lucas and Safe in the one-on-one. So Lucas, I appreciate you will likely communicate those sessions to the participants. So Yvonne, this might be really good for you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And on that note, as well, just on social media while we're there, and obviously we're looking at the kind of the timeline aspect where we've got this developed brand and social media. We had, I know some people in the room are already going through it. Other people are on the journey or maybe haven't started, but we do also offer as part of Spark a brand booster, which means getting your organization a brand, getting your organization a logo, getting your organization or something that can really make it recognizable. online and in print, which is made by some incredible graphic designers who are professionals in this space. So if that is something you haven't been to the Brand Booster, but you are interested in getting a brand, please get in touch with me as soon as possible, because it is a bit of a process that we need to follow, but it will, I promise you, change a lot of your presence online and your presence in communities and the work that you're doing with just having a continuous sort of logo and brand that you can use. Okay, so if you are interested in that, please message me. If you haven't come to the Brand Booster workshops yet, please just message me. Or you can book a Spark session with the link, which I think Fred might post in. So you keep booking it one time per week up until the end of March with myself or Safe. Once we hit April, that support is going to stop and change in the ways that I've just said. Now, our crowdfunding timeline is similar if we look at developing our brand and social media, developing the organizational story and pitch, and registering and becoming compliant with a lot of different Spark support. That is also intensive from February up until March, same as with Grant. However, we also have a crowdfunding workshop on the 26th of April, where we have a crowdfunding expert, the crowdfunding coach Bertie, who I'll introduce you to very shortly, is coming to deliver this workshop. And the reason why is he's going to help you develop your crowdfunding campaign, and then to really start crowdfunding all the way to a public event on the 22nd of June during Refugee Week in a demo day, and to continue this afterwards, okay? And now during this period, Bertie and Safe will provide Spark support, but only for crowdfunding, okay? So this is our crowdfunding timeline. So we're leading up to a big event. All of the Spark support, again, is up until the end of March. And then the support that starts from the 26th of April onwards to the 22nd of June is going to be with Safe and with Bertie, and it's going to be specific for crowdfunding support. So I'd like to introduce you to Bertie Hetage, who is a crowdfunding coach and the founder of the crowdfunding coach, and he's a crowdfunding expert. And Fred can put his LinkedIn and his website in the chat. Bertie has worked on many successful campaigns over the years, but has also helped work with Turn to develop some of the campaigns for social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in our community over the years. And he really started working with us on Ideas into Action last year. He was probably the main reason, alongside Entrepreneur Stories and Incredible Projects, for driving a lot of the traction and funding of up to sort of over £12,000 last year for various projects. He's a great guy. He's an expert, and he's going to be working with you directly on developing your campaign. Now, that means he and Safe will be working on writing a story. He will be helping you to promote it on your social media. He'll be helping you to grow it online and get more traction as well, and to network with your partners and different organizations as to where you can find more potential support and leverage more potential support from different people, different organizations in and around your networks. He's going to introduce all of this, start with, on Wednesday, the 26th of April, from 9:30 in the morning until 12:30 p.m. And here is where you will learn about crowdfunding, literally all about crowdfunding, but also crowdfunding in relation to Ideas into Action. And also you'll start your crowdfunding journey. You'll start looking at your networks. You'll start looking at building out your networks, and you'll also start looking more at your story and how you can tell that story. But we will have already hopefully developed a lot of this storytelling through our next couple of workshops, which are around pitching and around presenting your projects. But this one on the 26th is specific for crowdfunding, And this is one where the financial readiness survey and conversations with ourselves will help to determine whether you are ready or not, or it's right for you to launch a crowdfunding campaign at this moment. Because you want to launch a campaign if you are certain that you're going to be successful, because campaigns aren't a given. You need to have the setup in place beforehand, which is why we've been doing today, to see whether it's better for you to focus on grant fundraising at the moment or on crowdfunding. And our crowdfunding campaign and Spark support and workshop and everything is leading up to an event which is going to be in person. We'll welcome our friends from Scotland and from Manchester, from Coventry, and from London and around London. All of the Ideas into Action cohort will come together for a graduation on the 22nd of June, also a demo day. Now, we want to celebrate your successes in the program, but also your successes in launching your social enterprises. But what we really want to do as well is present your projects to the world. And so we're going to have a live demo day where you will be pitching and presenting to people. This is not compulsory. This is if you want to do it, okay? It's totally up to you. But the idea is that you can launch your crowdfunder, or you can start to network with different people and different organizations. And we'll have a graduation, which will be much smaller, just amongst the cohort before that as well. But we want to get your idea out to the world and to people who might want to work with you as well. This will be a celebration of your success with your peers, launching your crowdfunder, but also pitching your social business, maybe for the first time to the public, and networking with similar organizations and potential partners. And our friends at Social Enterprise UK are going to be holding a networking aspect at this demo day as well, and inviting organizations that will complement the work you're doing already, and other organizations that are working in this space that you might want to partner with, or even, I should say, they might want to partner with you because you have a lot to offer. Okay, so we're going to celebrate your success, but we're also going to help to really launch your work that you're doing into the public, and to get you as much exposure as possible for the great work you're doing, not only for crowdfunders, but also for grants and also for potential partners. So please keep a note of that. The 22nd of June, it will be in London. It shouldn't say 2022 either. I'm so sorry. That's like, it's still January. I don't know if anyone else is doing this, but I'm still signing everything off as 2022. It's the 22nd of June, 2023, of course, because we're not going back in time. But hey, luckily I've noticed that. But apologies for that little date error. I think tomorrow is when you're not allowed to do that anymore. So I've just got away with it because we're still in January. But to help you up and to prepare for this, of course, will be Bertie and Safe, who will be helping in May and June with crowdfunding support, but also will help with pitching support, and I will help with pitching support as well, and practicing up for this event. That link will be shared in the workshop in April when it starts, okay? So there's not the crowdfunding specific support link yet. That will start in April and run in May and June, and the program will finish on the 22nd of June 2023 with our graduation and demo day as well, where we hope to invite some really cool partners, organizations, friends, and people in this space. So those are the two timelines as to what the access to finance pathways look like for the end of the program. Are there any questions at all?
No.
No questions. Okay, Fred, anything to add at all about the end of the programs?
Just, guys, it's a lot to remember. But the good news is there's the usual Notion guide, and you can look at the schedule there and kind of familiarize yourself with it. Plus, Lucas will always remind you in each workshop about the most pertinent upcoming dates. And so good news is you will get it in bite-sized chunks. Nevertheless, it's a lot of exciting things to look forward to. We had such a good time last year with the first 10 participants of this program. who are now alumni, and some of whom you've heard from or met online. And we can't wait to promote you there out to the world with your social enterprises. So this summer is going to be big for all of you, and I think you can really come together as well to celebrate each other's step out there for the next big phase of your social startup.
Thanks, Fred, and I totally agree. It is a lot of information, but don't worry. We're getting excited because we've just put this all together as timelines. But the main point and the main takeaway is that we're here to support you. We're here to work with you. Please book in with Safe and myself. So please do book these Spark sessions, okay? Book an hour Spark session with us. We're here to work with you. You can do it right now if you want. You can scan the QR code or click the link that comes in the chat. But the point is we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. I will tell you about it over the next couple of months. You don't need to remember it all now. There's this recording, but keep it on the radar. The point is that we have really exciting events coming up. We have exciting support for you. And I just cannot stress enough, please book a session once a week with Safe, with myself. We're here to work with you. We're here to support with you up until March intensively, and then on fundraising campaigns in April, May, and June. So it's up to you to come to us to make the most of it. But we will share everything with you as we go through the program. Alex, you've taken yourself off mute and on camera. Have you got a question?
Yes. The QR code doesn't work.
Do you know which one? That's weird.
Exactly this one now.
This one work?
Yes.
Yeah. And this one. Does that one work?
I don't know. Yes.
There we go. That is very odd, but I think it's I don't know why. But scan this one anyway. It's the same booking link. So, if you wanted to book them all in one go now, from now until March, you could even do that once a week. We really want to work with you. We want to support you in developing your amazing non-profit social enterprises. We really believe in what you guys are doing and everything you're doing. So please do book. But again, it's up to you to make this however you want to, make the most of this. It's totally up to you. But as I've said, all of these intensive support that we have available to you is there. It's just come and ask us, and we'll be there. So whether that's social media, whether that's branding, whether that's financing, grant writing, or whether it's looking at a website, whether it's looking at strategizing social business plans, whatever it is, please book with us. We want to work with you. And I know some of you are already booking loads as well, which is great. I love seeing the block bookings that come in as well. So sorry that other one didn't work, and I have to go all the way back through here. Just a quick reminder, next week, which is really exciting, we'll be meeting in person. So on Tuesday, the 7th of February, if you're in London, we will have our workshop number 7, Presenter Confidence. We work King's Place, 90 York Way, London. The closest tube is King's Cross, St Pancras. I will send you on Friday and probably Monday a reminder of this. It's from 10 to 2 o'clock. It's a half-day workshop. It's a lovely time to all meet together and to start thinking about presenting and the confidence that you might have or need in presenting your social businesses and ideas to the world. So
Lucas, is it in London? I thought it was in Manchester.
So there's 2. So there's also one in Manchester.
On the same day?
Is for London participants is on Tuesday the 7th, and in Manchester, so anybody coming from Scotland, on Thursday the 9th of February from 10 to 2 is at Friends Meeting House.
Okay, that's the one.
Mount Street. I will also send a reminder. Now, one thing to say is Results CIC sent an email last week reminding everybody about this. If you need travel to the venue, we will cover the travel. That's absolutely fine. However, I believe the deadline might have been last night. So if you haven't asked for it, please send an email directly after this to the results CIC email that came in last week. If you're not sure, message me on WhatsApp. But the deadline was last night for this. But please do reply to that as soon as possible, as in within today. Would be fantastic if you need travel. Okay. So Thursday the 9th of February, 10 to 2 o'clock is in Manchester. So that's for all participants who are not in London. And everybody who is in London is Tuesday the 7th of February. Are there any questions around that at all?
So, do you mind to mention one more time what's going on their Tuesday?
So they're the same workshop. There's just one in Manchester and one in London. And in London, it's workshop 7. It is presenter confidence. It's sorry, just going to put everybody on mute. Apologies, I just can't hear. It's presenter confidence. It's all about presenting your idea. How do you do this? How do you find that confidence? What is presenting? How do you present and things? It's run by Results CSC, so run by Jane and Hormoz. It's a half-day in-person workshop from 10 to 2. Hormoz and Jane sent an email about it last week. And we'll share lunch together as well. It's a lovely time to come together as well. But if you want any follow-up information about this, it's on the schedule, but also you can message me directly and I can send that to you. Any other questions at all around the in-person workshops?
We chat with you just for 2 minutes after.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll stay on afterwards. That's absolutely fine. Finally,
can you do this? Can you help me with this?
Finally, please help us learn, help us grow. Tell me what we're doing right. Tell me what we're doing wrong. What you liked, what you didn't. We need feedback to make sure that we are doing the best we can do. So if you could scan this QR code and leave some feedback for yourself, for me, for the program, to help improve the program, improve the workshops, make it better for future generations of social entrepreneurs that will come after you as well. We would be so grateful. So please, if you could just take 2 minutes to scan this QR code or click the link that Fred has posted in the chat, bit.ly/feedback-into-action. That would be great. And the wonderful news is we're finishing 3 minutes early today. So thank you all so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to be with you this Tuesday morning. Yes, it is a Tuesday. Tuesday morning, and wishing you a very happy life.